Hi everyone, Aiden here with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the B&W Companion fifth wheel hitch with slider base and seeing how it fits on our 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 with the factory towing prep package. And that's going to be one of the main appeals to this particular version of the Companion. It's designed to work with that towing prep package from the factory for your GM or Chevy trucks, and being able to utilize that system is going to be the easiest way to get a fifth wheel hitch installed, especially a sliding one. Let's check it out. Now, first things first, why would you need a sliding fifth wheel hitch? Well, this truck is a great example. I can throw this lever to the unlocked position, I'd drive forward when we're hooked up to our trailer, and it would slide back and lock in, giving us 12 extra inches of turning clearance. And that's great because we've got a shorter bed Silverado, and we also have a tonneau cover in the front. So we've got a lot of things working against us when thinking about turning clearance for your fifth wheel. Now, if you've got a long bed truck, then you don't have to worry about that likely. But for the short beds, this is pretty much a must, and it's going to give you that extra turning clearance when you need it. Then, whenever you're ready to go again, you've made your sharp turn, you'd throw the lever to the unlocked position again, you'd back up, and it would automatically lock back in to that driving position so you can get on your way. Having to hop out of the vehicle to throw that lever might be a bit of a pain, and realistically, you might only need it for whenever you're arriving to the campsite and parking, so that might not be too big of a concern. One thing I will say is that the lever is very easy to operate from outside the truck bed. You gotta think your fifth wheel is gonna be hooked up here. You're not gonna have much room, and having an easy to throw lever is going to be a huge help. But if you don't want the manual aspect of that at all, I would recommend looking into the Demco Auto Slide. That one's going to be a much bulkier system, but you don't have to throw a lever to get it to slide back. It's gonna happen automatically. And there are versions of that that can be compatible with your towing prep package. As far as capability goes, the Companion can handle 20,000 pounds of gross trailer weight. That's how much weight it can pull. And it can support a 5,000 pound vertical load limit. That's the maximum downward pressure on it. Keep in mind, that's what the Companion is rated for, not necessarily your Silverado. So be sure to check your truck, its hitch, basically everything in your towing system, and go by the lowest rated component. As far as operation goes, really it's just a matter of opening and closing those jaws, which can be controlled through the latch on the side. Unpin this pinning clip and pull the handle back to open up the dual jaws. Those jaws are going to be an inch thick, and when closed will give 360 degrees of contact around the kingpin of your pin box. And I really like this system because it's not spring loaded, so if you were getting this opened up, ready to back up to your trailer, there's not as much risk of anything getting pinched in here. It's just not going to be as aggressive. Some fifth wheel heads will have a spring-loaded jaw, which if you have to mess with something, and that can be a pinching hazard. So I just like this design a little bit better. And you could always replace this included pin with a padlock so that no one can operate it when you're not around. Now, when it comes to towing with this, there's going to be two different methods of shock absorption. You'll notice that the head will pivot front to back. We'll see this a little bit closer later, but underneath here on either side, there's going to be large rubber isolators, which will provide cushioning, reduce rattle, and just help absorb some of the road shock and allow the head to pivot as we're hitting bumps going down the road. The other thing you'll see pretty prominently right next to it is a large blue shock. That's going to give you some side-to-side support. It's going to basically work to keep this head level, unless we were to maybe hit a pothole and our trailer were to pivot to one side. That shock would expand or contract to accommodate that and help push it back into a level place of alignment. Again, helping with maybe if we're backing up and hooking up to our trailer, hooking up when we're not perfectly level, but also when we're driving, making it a more comfortable experience and absorbing some of the road shock. The head can be removed by pulling these 2 pins and clips and lifting up on these side handles to release it. Now this is pretty firmly on those rubber isolators I mentioned earlier, so it's going to require some working back and forth, or as it breaks in over time, it'll become easier. Now there's going to be 2 purposes to being able to remove this. One is so that when we're not towing, if we want to take this out of the bed, it does take away from some of the overall weight, but I'll be honest with you, the bulk of the weight is in the slider base itself. So I'd still strongly recommend having extra sets of hands, at least 2 other people, to help you lift this out of the bed when it's not in use, but this will take away from the weight a little bit. But also underneath there's going to be a Zerk fitting where we can apply grease and keep some of the moving parts of that 5th wheel head operating smoothly over time. With the head removed, we can see the hardware that's helping to secure the uprights to the sliding base. During the initial install, you can choose a couple different height settings for these. I've got them in the middle height position right now, but they can move down 1 inch or up 1 inch, giving us 3 choices for hitch head height: 17 inches, 18 inches, or 19 inches. And that'd be from the bed to that flat part of the 5th wheel head up top. And since we've got it, I do want to test for tonneau cover clearance. That's something pretty important that I'd like to consider if I was checking out a 5th wheel hitch for my own truck. And we're doing great. Like I mentioned, we've got this in the middle height position, so 18 inches from the bed to the top of the 5th wheel head here, and we've got plenty of clearance. Even if we had this in the tallest position, our cover would be quite all right. And it's worth mentioning that this is one of the lowest profile tonneau covers you can get. It sits pretty much level, if not slightly underneath the bed rails of a truck. So any other cover that would sit slightly above the bed rails or in line with them like this, I think it'd be just fine. So good to know that you don't have to worry about that with the Companion. Now, as far as how this installs in that factory prep package, it's really straightforward. Each side is going to have 2 levers that are held together by another just basic safety pin and clip that you can remove. You could always swap that out for a lock. And these will just turn a 1/4 turn and basically just disengage the levers that are locking this in to that factory puck underneath. Like I mentioned, this is really heavy, but I'll try to lift one up here so you can see a little bit what that looks like. When I go to turn that lever, that'll turn sideways and basically lock it into that oblong hole. Or when I throw it like this, it'll allow it to line up and drop in and turn to lock. And that's really all there is to it. Overall, I think the B&W Companion is a really solid option. And when it comes to sliding 5th wheel hitches that work with your factory towing prep package on your Silverado here, in my opinion, the B&W Companion is the only real option. I know I mentioned the Demco Auto Slide earlier, and Kurt also has their S-Series slider that you can pair up with one of their 5th wheel hitches, and you can make those systems work with the factory prep package. The one caveat to that is that those aren't designed from the ground up to work with the prep package. Both of those hitches utilize an adapter rail piece. So it's an adapter that drops into that factory prep package and essentially just gives you industry standard rails that the 5th wheels and sliders then attach to. To make that short and sweet, it requires an extra piece. And while you can get it in a full complete kit that gives you everything you need, it's just an extra thing that you got to worry about installing, and it's going to add height and complexity to the whole system here. Whereas the Companion has less pieces and in turn will sit a little bit lower, be a more custom fit solution, still allow you to operate that tonneau cover. And I think it's just the more elegant solution. For my own truck, it's what I would want. But, you know, if you wanted that auto slide feature from Demco, I think that would be a pretty valid reason to go with that other option. Just know that it's going to be a little bit more complicated to get it set up with those extra pieces. But if you liked everything you saw here today, this is just our look at the B&W Companion fifth wheel hitch with sliding base on our 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 with the factory towing prep package. Thanks for watching.